Hello, hello, hello. This is an impromptu video, as evidenced by the mess behind me. I'm just so excited. I had to get on. This is spontaneous. Today I got in the mail, I got my heavier paper, my glass cabochons, my special glue. Yesterday I got my color cartridge for my printer. And today everything came together just in time for a couple of transits to make my first jewelry cabochons since 2020 and timing it to make them talismans for a transit. Venus is in Libra, so that one's a little more generic. That one you can kind of do, checking the other transits. Uh, you can kind of do throughout. Well, Venus is in Libra; it's her sign. But I also noticed this was a last minute thing that Mercury was in Leo and the sun was in Virgo. So they have mutual reception. That means Mercury is in Leo, the sign of the sun, and the sun is in Virgo, the sign of Leo. So they're talking to each other, they're helping each other. And I was like, oh, this is a little rare. And I just realized it a few minutes beforehand. So, and to make a talisman, you're really supposed to create the image and do the thing during the planetary hour. And that's the reason I did Venus today, because it was Venus's day, Venus's hour. So I'm like, we're going to make a generic Venus cabochon. They're still drying. No, you can't tell. It's Venus. I have to take some nice pictures and put up on the site later. Um, and I did another design. They're still drying. No, it's the glass images to make jewelry, keychains, whatever you want. So this is my not only my first attempt at, well, not attempt, but first real talisman making, other than paper. I've been playing with creating the images with AI and Photoshop because AI can't handle some of this stuff. This is Mercury, just a generic Mercury. And then I got into, if any of you are familiar with faces, decans. Um, I didn't have time to make one for Leo and its decan, but I had already done the basic. One of the images for the decan of Mercury, decan of Virgo, is a moon or a snake with a moon's head, snake tail. You get some crazy shit in this 36 faces. We'll get into that in a minute. But I made the basic image, but then what I usually do is I'll put signs for the symbols that are important to that particular transit. So technically, while a lot of it is done beforehand, I only got around an hour, y'all. Then I add the images for the particular transit, finalize it, print it out, and then glue down the glass cabochons. After you say the Orphic hymn and make your little petition to whatever god or goddess you're trying to work with. So, and the reason that I've been starting to work more with decans. Most of these were just generic images of Mercury, of Venus created with AI. But I'm wanting to work with the decans in particular because one of the authority on decans, the man who wrote 36 Faces, which is an out of print book, that last I saw was selling on Amazon used for like $5,000, which is ridiculous. And he would say that's ridiculous. But it was written by Austin Coppock. If you're into astrology, you know that he is the frequent co-host on the Astrology podcast and wrote this book, which he is doing the second edition. He keeps saying he's going to release it. And he also happens to be one of my astrology teachers. So if I don't include the decans, whew, I'll be in trouble with dad. So, but as I was saying, this is the first time I've created jewelry since 2020. And there is a reason for that. In 2020, I was still working as a nurse, doing travel nursing. And I had just gotten, trying not to get emotional. I had just gotten my house into order. I built a library in the dining room with this huge picture window with a window seat. And I had a bedroom, but I made the master bedroom into a jewelry making studio. There's my Venus exalted. I have an exalted Venus in my natal chart. And it had a little room. It was an older house that had a little room. It was probably for like a crib for infants. It was perfect for my English teaching. So I could leave everything set up. It was out of the way. Nothing else could do with that room, really. I just planted my garden and everything was so good. And then one day I went to bed in 2020 and I woke up. I had a stroke while I was sleeping. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk right. I couldn't write. I couldn't drive. It was a big one. So I basically lost everything. I lost the ability to do things I love. I was lucky that my nurse practitioner, her mom was on the board for HUD housing because I suddenly lost all my income. I just gotten my teaching schedule to where I could survive, okay, between travel nursing jobs. I lost all of that because I didn't contact them. I lost all my students. I had to give away most of my furniture to either get my landlord to help me move, and most of it wouldn't fit because I got accepted into HUD in a studio apartment. So I went from a 2-bedroom house to a studio apartment, and I had no money. Good times. But it took me like 4 months to even be able to write again. Longer than that to drive again. It was not a good time. And one of the things I couldn't do because it affected my right side, my fine motor skills to be able to do things like put glass cabochons on here. And it's still somewhat affected. I'm still not great at writing. Sometimes I'm good, and then it's like my hand gets tired and it starts to degenerate. But this is a huge step, a huge piece of getting my life together because I was miserable during the nursing. I was digging my grave with my teeth. It's a toxic environment, and even as a regular, but when you're a traveler, people really treat you like shit. Nurses are the meanest damn people I've ever met. I swear they are. Not necessarily to the patients, to each other. They take out all the frustrations on each other. It was the worst day of my life and the best day of my life. Oh, and yeah, my siblings abandoned me because 2 of them, and I will occasionally get political. I try not to, but we're so far divided. You know, I'm the libtard of the family. On January 6th, when I was watching the footage, I expected to see my one sister there. Just hypocritical Christians. Being a Christian is not a bad thing. If it works for you, you go for it. Do it. But the hypocritical ones, I think we all know what that means. So anyway, it took over 3 years to get my disability. I still use a walker. I'm not 100%. I am disabled. So Oh, there's just all kinds of stuff like that. But I decided, you know what? If I have to start my life over, I'm going to do what I want to do. And one of the things I always loved was astrology and all of that tarot astrology. And I've finally gotten serious. I studied 1 year with Adam Ellenboss over at Nightlight Astrology, and I still haven't done his horary class, which is where you ask a question and get a direct answer with astrology, because I have too much on my plate. But then when Austin's classes opened up, and I had seen him at NORWAC, which was a conference for astrology, his sense of humor and as I put it, the way he talks shit about Saturn, it's like, this is the one. This has got to be my teacher. And he has a very interesting way of phrasing things that makes you remember. He's a handful. He's pretty sedate on Chris Brennan's podcast, the astrology podcast, but not so much his own classes. So I'm going through his classes. I am, and part of the reason I'm doing this YouTube thing is when I was in nursing school, it was the big thing was see one, do one, teach one. You got to teach it to understand it. So I'm teaching with the videos and learning, and it's my way of studying. But this is something different because my plans for the future are to make talismans, the glass cabochon, into jewelry. Now, there's people doing this. Austin and his wife are doing it. And Christopher Warnock, who translated the Picatrix, which is about astrological magic. They're doing it. But you're probably not going to be able to afford their stuff, or not much. Now, Kate Kopic does have some cheaper things, relatively speaking, because she does a lot of things like soap and oils and ink. She does a lot of really interesting, but a lot of cheaper things that are a little more affordable, but they're still, because they were done at a certain time, certain transits, they're much more valuable and much more expensive. So I'm trying to find a way to do this that it can be a little more affordable. But I mean, and you know what? The people that charge high prices, it's worth it. It's worth their time because they have picked out the right time, the right transits. They've done all the work. And let me tell you, it's hectic because there's like a certain time, and usually you have maybe an hour, maybe not that long, depending on how your transits are going. So it's worth every penny what they do. But I'm just trying to find a way to create some pendants or keychains or whatever I do end up doing with these little round things. Technically, I should probably really be making the actual jewelry, like putting them in the settings, but they have to dry. Can't do that. But the cabochons themselves are the talismans, not the setting or the tray that I end up putting them in. And that's okay. It's all about the glass and the image. So this is a big thing for me because I haven't been able to do it for a long time. And everything just came together today with deliveries. Well, and yesterday I got the color cartridge for my printer because it was out of ink. Because I'm poor, I'm on disability, I'm on fixed income. So I have to be very careful about how I allocate resources. And the reason I moved back into HUD after I finally got my disability and my back pay, I lived for a while in Kentucky in a trailer. That's a story for another day. But I moved back into HUD specifically so I would be able to afford rebuilding my life. And I'm also writing books and trying to get this site together. So, but this is a proud moment. a little piece of my life back. I'm finally able to start taking pictures again. Because if you look at my website, my personal website, dianaprice.com, I have my photography, my writing, and I've also added the tarot and astrology. And I'm also taking an herbology class. So I'm keeping myself a little busy. Plus, I'm also taking Dr. Justin Sledge from Esoterica on YouTube. He has a class in the 3 books of occult philosophy going on. I stay busy every day. I'm telling you. But this is a big one. I can take photos again. I couldn't take them at first for a long time because my balance was so bad. And I had to keep a hand on something to keep balance. And I couldn't hold a real camera, not a phone. Phones aren't cameras, they're phones. But I have a real camera and I couldn't hold my camera because I need 2 hands. And you can see this is from when I was nailing things in the wall. Yeah, aim isn't very good. There's still residual effects. So I'm able to take photos again. That's a big score. I'm able to make jewelry again. And I've done 1 paranormal investigation now. I can still get up and down steps, but I have to have a walker once I get to the top. So I'm working to get off the walker, want to get back on the cane, want to get out and do things again and just get my life back. I literally lost everything, both materially, my independence, although I had no choice but to do it alone, thanks to my piece of shit siblings. 2 of them I've never got along with. It wasn't a surprise and it wasn't a loss. But the 3rd one, the one I'd always been close to, we were kind of divided in 2. The older 2 are twins, so they're pretty similar. And me and the other one had always been close. And that was kind of the et tu brute moment. That was the chironic wound. And for the record, I have a stellium and Pisces in the 3rd, the house of siblings, among other things. Venus, exalted Venus is there, but she's co-present with Saturn, Mercury, and Chiron, all on the same degree. So that's what I started writing about, kind of a pain to power with my reference. It's not a textbook. And it's evolved since then. So, and it evolves like my background keeps evolving. I moved the love seat over to face the TV because I was like, I need a work table. I got a work table. It's a hot mess. It's a hot stinking mess right now. So anyway, this is way long-winded. Nobody's going to watch this. But I'm excited. These glass cabochon, this jewelry, this magical jewelry, I'm going to be developing. And I'm also going to do like sigils and other things. Charged with the full moon, charged with the new moon. The decans are pretty complicated and they got some crazy ass images. So even AI can't do them. I mean, they can't produce them. I have to go into Photoshop and start modifying. So this is one of the many big pieces of getting my life back. And I probably bored you to tears, but I'm not bored. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. So tune in for the next video and know that these are coming. Bye-bye. I've rambled long enough.